30 days, you'll put some highlight on it, and then put a gloss over it.
You put the dye inside that?
Yeah, we took the dyed concrete and it came to us already mixed.
I had to drive to
And it's
Medford.
black all the way through, so legit, it's still black.
Yeah.
If it gets scratched, it's still black. But I did bring in the guy to do the stamping because he's very, 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 very good. It was worth it.
That's really cool.
Did you get my call? Woods is taking care of it?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
It's easier if they just call the sheriff's office. That way they can talk to the actual person, like get
The actual person is my guest here tonight. He
Oh.
came here and he's telling me about it, and I'm like, hang on a minute.
Gotcha.
The UPS, the Southern Pacific engineer told me that they have 100% rate on that suicide. If you walk in front of a train, you don't get a second chance.
Oh yeah.
So this dude's looking to meet the train. I thought you guys should.
Oh no, he's on it right now.
Okay.
We're at least searching for him. All right,
Minute.
we got. I think we did.
Thanks.
All right, we're ready to go, Wendy. Blake. Let's call this meeting of the City Council to order at 6 p.m. You can all rise for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could we have a roll call?
Councilmember Arth?
Here.
Councilmember Deutsch?
Here.
Councilmember Lucchese? Here. Councilmember Keisler?
Here.
And Mayor Bryan?
Present. All right, we have no special presentations and announcements this evening. So I will forward us to item 4, our general public comment for the evening. Please come forward if you'd like to make a public comment on any item that is not on the agenda. So anything generally pertaining to city business or anything that's on the consent agenda, which tonight is just the check registry for the last 2 weeks. You'll be allowed 3 minutes. Please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tim Holt, 6235 Hill Street. Next week, the Planning Commission will hold its second meeting on landmark status for the California Theater. And so, very appropriately, the public discussion about the future of the theater and the future of our historic downtown continues. The City Council will, after the Planning Commission makes its decision, have the final say on whether the theater will receive landmark status. And in so doing, we hope you will honor the wishes of the 450 people who signed our petition. The council will also, at that future meeting, have the chance to set the stage for more ambitious steps toward the goal of getting the theater open. I wish I had adequate words to inspire this council to see how important this first step is toward achieving not only the goal of getting the theater open, but contributing significantly to the revival of our downtown historic district. It is something that calls for inspired vision and leadership. When you get right down to it, it's really a very simple matter. If you declare the California Theater to be the most important structure in our town, it then becomes imperative to get it fixed up and open. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Holt. If anyone else on Zoom would like to make a public comment, go hit the raise your hand button and we'll get you in. All right, seeing none in the room, I can't tell if is there any on Zoom? All right, seeing no more, I will close the general public comment for this evening, and we'll proceed with staff and council comments. Do we want to begin with Sergeant Ortiz?
Thank you. It's we're starting to pick up. Memorial Day is ended, so we have seen an uptick. So we have seen more police contacts, no serious crimes or violent crimes to speak of to report. We're looking forward to representing the city of Dunsmuir and helping out at the Railroad Days function or festivities. Was that next week? The parade's the 11th. It's just over a week from now. So we'll be helping out tomorrow night with the Dunsmuir High School parade. And I'm told the junior high or the elementary school is graduating tonight, starting at 7. So looking forward to trying to get to that. That's all we have.
All right. Thank you so much, Sergeant. Are there any additional questions for Sergeant
I'd
Ortiz?
like to make a comment. There was I want to personally thank this guy. Him and his crew went down there to Hobo Camp, took care of eradicated a problem, and dealt with the fire that we had, 3-foot high fire in 45-mile-an-hour winds. These guys dealt with it, and I want to thank you.
Glad to do it. Thank you.
And a special shout out to one of the deputies that was in a high-speed chase that we got to hear about. So good job. She handled herself extremely well. It was great.
Well, I didn't want to tip my hand too close on next month's meeting, but just to speak on that a little further, the involved deputy was Deputy Decker, and she was in pursuit of a stolen Harley-Davidson motorcycle. She did show great restraint and judgment through the town, and she ultimately was able to apprehend the driver down at near Sims Road in Shasta County on Interstate 5 with no incident. So I was actually out on Lake Siskiyou patrolling for some overtime and freaking out, headed for the dock. But it all ended well.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
the bumper
Sorry.
sticker reads, "Don't get decked by Decker."
It should.
I salute her. And, Acting City Manager Michelson.
Yeah, thank you. So I just have three small ones. I just want to point out that drought situation is getting pretty severe to a certain degree. So we're looking at, I've already been in contact or been reviewing curtailment status. And so curtailment just simply means that we would have to reduce water use. So if the state does impose that, we will be letting citizens know. We do have within the Dunsmuir Municipal Code a emergency water shortage provision. It's like 13.08, I think, somewhere in that range. So if the state imposes curtailment, then we will be instituting those shortage emergencies. So there's that piece, but also the city, we are monitoring very closely our water sources, and we potentially will self-proclaim the emergency water shortage. So I just want to make people aware, and currently we are asking for voluntary reductions of water use. So if possible, please try and reduce water as much as you can. Then lastly, I just got notice, and we received a little bit ago, about Pacific Power potentially will be increasing some rates. This has nothing to do with the city itself, but we just want to, the letter did come to the city. There's a potential increase of, the letter says $33 a month. So don't have more details on that. We'll try and post a notice onto our website for citizens to be aware, but I know it's not great news. And they have to go through a whole Public Utilities Commission, Pacific Power does. So I don't think it's set in stone at all, but we will be posting that on the website just to kind of make people aware. Yeah, thanks, Ortiz. And that's all.
Anything further?
That's it.
Any questions, City Manager? I just, Councilor Knox, I would say if there's an opportunity for us to comment as a town on the rate increase, let us know. And I would, just so we're not, are we experiencing actual water shortages based on historical levels currently that we should start to be being more concerned about that, or is this just the general state of the drought in California?
We definitely want citizens to know that for right now, it's voluntary reductions in water use. We are very closely monitoring our source intake and the levels that are coming through the intake of our source water.
If there's no further questions, we can move on to council comments. Councilman Keisler.
I don't normally say ladies first, but I have a guest I would like to introduce. Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't been noticing that there's been a man doing river cleanup all by himself, that man is here tonight. His name's Robert Honeyman. And Robert, could you please come up to the stand? Introduce yourself on the microphone so I get your face on this. I want everybody to know who you are because what you're doing down there is just amazing. He's cleaned up the pipe, the spot by the ballpark. We went down there to clean it up and there was no trash. No trash. And I can't believe I'm saying this. So we go the other side. Well, we found some trash. We found a few people and we broke up some fire rings, but this is what this guy's been doing, it from hypodermic needles to breaking up fire rings and letting them know not cool. So I thank you. I'm giving you the opportunity to introduce yourself real quick so that we can thank you as a council.
My name's Robert. If you heard, I got tired of looking at trash down there, and a lot of the times, these homeless camps, they never clean up after themselves. And I speak from experience. I used to be homeless, but you would never know where I was camping. That's how I did it. And hypodermic needles, I found a propane canister buried into one of the fire rings, like buried in it, that still had fuel in it, which had somebody built a strong enough fire would have exploded, and then there goes the whole hillside. So I just saw a need to do it, and I got some people on Facebook that are interested in helping out, and I think it'd be a good thing to maybe just have like a regular twice a month sweep of the spots that are really bad. All the drainages coming down from I-5 through town that go straight to the river, loaded full of trash. All that stuff ends up in the river. And I'm not an environmentalist, but I do like my environment. So
We can get a couple guys to help you.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, I didn't know if you, I think it's a good idea. Bruce is gonna have a suggestion later on, but we're kind of calling him the steward of the river right now. So.
Well, I'm picking up trash everywhere else too. I mean, the town's small enough, and I think there's enough people that would get behind it to, like, they have the Adopt a Highway program. You know, I'm thinking like adopt a section of your neighborhood. There's South Dunsmuir up to the cemetery, from the cemetery through to the Econo Lodge, and from there up to Hedge Creek. I mean, there's trash everywhere, and it wouldn't take much to pick it up.
Well, thank you so much for spearheading that, and I think it's definitely something volunteers should come together, and we should definitely encourage such behavior. Keep in mind that it'll probably be coming back up on a future agenda, but we have to move forward with tonight.
I just wanted to get it out there so you guys can see my face.
Just had to bring him in so I know who he was.
Yeah, all right.
Thanks for coming.
All right, Dave.
Got just a couple more items.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Robert. Thank you.
There we go. Blake mentioned it is drought season, so I'm going to say 4 words. Pack fire bags, and don't forget your medicine. So fire bags, and don't forget your medicine. Tomorrow night at the ball field there's a family night where the resource center is putting on. There's a free barbecue, games for the kids. For those of us who aren't involved in the parades or the graduation ceremonies, there's something to do for the family night. And it starts at 4 o'clock. I'm looking for volunteers to help me with the soapbox derby races. And if anybody's interested in the steampunk event, or I'm having a steampunk, what do we call it? What kind of car am I having, Mr. Bailey? Like rat rods, steampunk rat rods. And so that's what, one more thing, Mr. City Manager, I am having soapbox derby races down this hill, and I did happen to notice there's a great big patch of asphalt work going on. I was hoping that maybe by the 12th, that's all nice and smooth and took care of.
I suggest air tires, thick air tires
That
on
ain't
the
happening
soapbox
at this
derbies.
point. I've got, 59 cars that are made a certain way. I suggest sweeping the road with the street sweeper. Now it's your turn, what you got?
We'll look into it there,
Okay,
council
thank you.
member.
All right, thank you, Councilman Casey.
All right.
Councilwoman Casey.
Thank you. Just working on a couple of things. The city manager search, the first round of applications closed today. So hopefully we will be getting some applications. We're going to be reaching out to a couple of people. The mayor and I highlighted a couple of people for the search committee to reach out to in terms of planning commissioners, people who are involved with some of our committees, businesses and things like that. So if you have a suggestion of people who are interested, I think they're looking for about 8 people, but it would also include city staff as well. Sorry, Blake, if you applied or not. I don't know if you have, that's your business, but if you haven't, you get to be on that. But if you have applied, then you can't be on that. But we've given them a couple of names to go through, and that would be for the first round of phone interviews or Zoom interviews prior to coming to a full council with a selection of finalists. So that's clipping along really nicely. I've heard that we actually have quite a few applications. I don't know how many, but I've just had other people in the industry, planning wise, reach out and notify me that they were applying and were just curious about stuff, which I just refer them to the executive search committee because I don't answer questions. Other than that, thank you, Wendy and Blake, for answering the question about the Union Pacific cleanup sign. They are going to be putting up a sign, just kind of advertising it similar to our water projects. And so Blake was really nice and got the dimensions for that to them. So they're moving forward with that notification. And then just working out, oddly enough, with Mayor Bryan's sister on some funding called the PLHA. A lot of this, every city is allocated a certain amount of money to go to the unhoused population and homeless population for addressing that issue. The city of Dunsmuir just doesn't have the human capacity or expertise to deal with those types of programs and facilitating those funds. There's a lot of requirements for reporting on them. And so one of the things that the city of Wairika, Fort Jones and Etna are doing, and I believe Montague as well, is they're just basically funneling the PLHA funds to the county to do certain projects like help people, help develop a permanent shelter. They're working on that, I think, to go in Wairika. But again, just trying to work as a county regionally to make sure those funds get allocated to good programs, because if we don't allocate it, it basically just goes back to the state. So it's good someone would be using that with the expertise. So I'm hoping to come back to this council for a future item, a resolution allocating those funds to the county Health and Human Services to provide those services to those individuals and address chronic homelessness. Their programs go throughout the whole county, so it wouldn't just stay in Wairika. They use those for voucher programs. They use it for rental assistance throughout the county. So they just have better services and expertise to be able to do those. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Ar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have several items. First of all, I want to express my deep personal gratitude to a generous citizen of Dunsmuir that wrote a personal check to facilitate the processing of the California Theater landmarking application. To me, it serves to legitimize this grassroots effort. I know the staff has worked hard to make this happen, and so I'm very appreciative that we are moving on rather than quitting on this rather important project.
Good news.
I want to congratulate the newest restaurant in Dunsmuir's growing family of top-class restaurants. If you haven't been to a Taste of the Caribbean, located right next to the hardware store, I urge you to go in, meet the proprietor and the staff. It's a non-alcoholic operation. They focus on fruit juices, smoothies, healthy drinks that are typical to the Caribbean region. A very attractive menu if any of you would like to see it. Welcome to Dunsmuir, and I hope the chamber does everything they can to help make this new business successful. If you crane your neck and look across the street to the community garden, you will see the Ann Powers Memorial Bench has been installed. It's a black granite bench, again, thanks to the generosity of a citizen in Dunsmuir. It's right next to the Ross Taylor Falls and the children's area. It will be there long after all of us are gone. And I'm very pleased that we worked together to get that memorial to Ann Powers done. 2 questions, I guess, to staff. There is a couple in Dunsmuir that are interested in leasing airport property to start organic gardening. And I told them, I don't know the water situation, and I'm really not involved in the airport, but I would seek to find out who they should talk to, so it's useful rather than running around in circles. I have several constituents wanting to know green waste days, how many and when, and I assume we'll be talking about that if we could schedule a solid waste meeting. But we are getting into the time of the year where everybody starts to worry about fire safety. And the point is, if my green waste turns to brown waste, we're really not doing much good here. So I hope, even if it's only one green waste day, we need to have places and scheduling so people can start planning to make successful green waste days. Thank you very much to Tim Holt, excellent scribe. The new magazine just out, Enjoy, has a feature article in the inspiration section, Vanishing Breed, Dunsmuir hardware store owner Ron McLeod. The article reveals he's 81 years old. He's had the store for 50 years. It's very informative. It's a beautiful piece.
Good job, Tim.
And our town historian is honored once again. There's not a lot of time between the front end and the back end of the meeting, Mr. Mayor. I do think we need to talk about street trees and sidewalks. I had this situation occur with the Pops Performing Arts Center where a street tree pushed up against the corner of the roof, started damaging the building. And with former city manager Randy Johnson, we simply reached an accord where the city agreed to remove the tree if I would remove the pavers and replace the pavers after the tree was removed and the stump ground. I have the same situation with my house now. A street tree has a branch that's pushing on the corner of my roof, and I don't want my roof to get damaged, but we really don't have a procedure yet as to whether this is me at the laboring oar, the city staff at the laboring oar, but I don't treat it as my tree. And we still have on Sacramento Avenue the heaving problem. Some of the sidewalk between all of the businesses on Sacramento Avenue are just terribly unsafe. So I hope our budget says we actually have done an inventory of these unsafe situations. I don't know if we have or not, but especially with the Children's Park and the heaved squares there, Sacramento Avenue and other locations, the liability as a lawyer worries me quite a bit. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Art. Vice Mayor Dutch.
Thank you. I have more to talk about when we get to the committee reports and talking about DCAP. But the one thing that I wanted to bring up was, as you may know, I'm one of the representatives for the Sacramento division of the League of California Cities, and we had a membership meeting in Mount Shasta a couple weeks ago. The mayor was there, and I wanted to kind of give an update as it relates to broadband. Again, several years ago, Mount Shasta, Weed, and Dunsmuir got together and spent $100,000 to have a plan looked at, and all that information kind of sat there, and we decided we didn't have the resources to be able to move it forward. At this meeting, there was a representative from AT&T who came and really kind of got more into the idea of how we would work with the existing internet service providers and the available funds to reach those areas in our cities that are underprovided. And so for the first time, I had a sense of a path forward, and I think there was a general sense from the other members that that was the way to go. So what I'm looking forward to doing is to getting a meeting scheduled with our internet service providers now, Vive, I guess, and Snowcrest, but with the idea in mind to look at what available funds are out there that can be used to help support the areas where we don't have existing internet broadband available. And at the same time, I know we've kind of chatted about it, but I do want to explore the idea of getting hotspots up and down in central areas. So I want to push ahead with that, and I'll let everyone know what I find out as I go. And Matthew, if you want to go along with that too, in terms of working that, I can.
Yeah, it was a very thorough presentation. A lot of questions aren't answered because essentially there's three major sources of money coming down from the federal government relating to this right now, some of which have particular earmarks for rural communities, which is good. Utilizing it's a little bit different, but the main two areas that both potentially could have some progress for Dunsmuir is was it end mile or last mile development to the final house. There's a lot of effort there, although it sounds like the city's going to have to be fairly proactive in helping with identification of who lacks it and who needs it, where it needs to go. But the other side of it is there's actually really meaningful work going towards programs to reduce the cost of internet to low-income individuals.
Yeah.
And it really depends on which provider you have, because they can opt into a program or not, and they can make it more affordable or less affordable. But there's some subsidies available through the infrastructure bill that passed last year. So hopefully we can integrate that. It's a little overwhelming in that, we could have stayed there for 3 days talking about how to make it work, but it does sound like even without us putting a ton of effort into it, the internet service providers and the federal government are finally taking the lead on this one.
Are you proposing to do this in association with the leadership of the cities of Mount Shasta and Weed, or on our own?
I threw it out there as let's get together as a group and talk to Vive together. What are your thoughts?
That it's only going to happen if we can build enough load to drive down the costs. There will be subsidies for the people that really can't afford basic service at the bottom end, but AT&T and Verizon are never going to do anything unless they can be convinced they're going to make money doing it. So Supervisor Valenzuela, when we went through the exercise with the $100,000 study, all of the carriers are more interested the more territory they can serve. So the dynamic has always been 2 empty chairs for the 2 big carriers, and then the small carriers come in. But I do think there's enough support now that if we can work together, we're likely to succeed.
I agree.
Well, I think we should bring this back up to the agenda with a little more preparation. I know Councilwoman Lucchese's very well experienced with this.
I was just going to suggest to agendize it for further discussion.
That's a good idea.
Sounds good. And the hotspots, I've talked to Blake about briefly. I think I haven't had time to look into some of the issues with it.
I'll look into it, whoever gets there first.
Yeah, let's get there first. It would be good to do that. Sorry, do you have more?
No, that's it, thanks.
Going on that, I also want to just encourage all the people volunteering for Railroad Days. Steampunk, it's good to hear that's coming up. I know Brewfest, I've seen them having meetings there. It's really important that we take our event seriously. In the last 2 weeks, I both went to Mount Shasta's Granduro race. They had over 750 bicycle racers from all over the world. It was really impressive. Huge economic impact.
McLeod was packed
McLeod-
last weekend.
McLeod had more vendors at their mushroom festival than I have ever seen in Siskiyou County, including the fair. They must have had 30 to 40 vendors there. We can do that too. If anything, we're more convenient than either of those locations. Everyone can do it and share, but I do think we really need to take what we do well, Railroad Days, Brewfest, get those back, and potentially work on really expanding how we can successfully put on these events, because people will come if you're there enough years And
I happen to
it's
be
really
on
inspiring.
all of the committees, and we will love anybody's input and help.
All right, and not to say that we're not succeeding in that, I think there's been a lot of great efforts there, particularly with the second Saturday. Our town's very busy. So that's all I have on that. Let's move on to committee reports. And I believe we have a guest here from one of our
Can I
committees.
kind of introduce this?
Yeah.
As the liaison for the Disaster Preparedness Advisory Committee, we have some news I want to report on the alarm systems, and I'll hold that to the second part of this committee report. But for right now, we have Linda Shaben here to report, and we also have some very special guests which she'll be introducing, and I'm hoping that you'll get a chance to meet them, and they'll be doing some exciting things. So Linda, would you carry on? Some very exciting news from her standpoint.
Thanks, Bruce. Thank you, Mayor. I have some great news to report. We have been funded by CAL FIRE for a Dunsmuir Fuels mitigation project to the tune of, I'll give you the exact amount, it's $879,000 and 970. So it's about $880,000. It's a 48-month grant cycle, and this is due to the collaborations that we've developed with the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County. That's Giselle Nova and her team. And I think Giselle's on, yeah, Giselle's on the call. The partnership that we've developed with her, we've written a couple of grants, and gosh darn it, they funded us this time. And so it's really exciting. I also want to give a shout out to the McConnell Foundation, because Alex Carter of the McConnell Foundation really helped us with these grants as well. And maybe Giselle has some comments later when we're done. But the Fire Safe Council.
She just came on. Could you introduce her? She's a
Oh, there
special
she is.
person.
Okay.
Make sure
Hi,
you-
Giselle.
Hi, y'all.
This is Giselle Nova. She's the director of the Fire Safe Council of Siskiyou County. And we have a couple other guests that I'll introduce in just a few minutes. But I just sharing with them, Giselle, the excitement of us getting the fuel reduction grant for Dunsmuir. Did you want to say a couple words about it?
Well, we're just really happy. You know, it's like putting things into a funnel and something finally comes out the bottom. And we still have another grant for the north portion of this project, and we'll wait to see if that's coming through. But this is awesome. We've tried really hard. It's going to be mostly a CEQA project, but we have, I think, 170 acres of fuel treatments in selected areas that we're proposing. And Linda and the fire chief and her committee are going to be choosing what exactly those areas are. We have a map of what we propose they will be. But anyway, it's exciting, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to get some fire mitigation work done, and we're just so pleased that that's happening.
Yeah, thanks for coming on board. We really appreciate you, Giselle. So it's really when they say CEQA project, we're doing the environmental studies first, and that's kind of what CAL FIRE wanted. So a lot of Dunsmuir will get the environmental compliance work done, as well as homeowner permission. I'm trying to remember the landowner access agreements. So you do that with the CEQA, but a portion of that, so it's 510 acres that will be CEQA only, but there'll be 183 acres that we can select for on-the-ground fuel reduction treatments, and that will take place in South Dunsmuir. So it's a total of about 690 acres, and we'll want to pull the stakeholders together. Giselle mentioned our committee and Dan Padilla and any other stakeholders that we might want to get involved, like the timber company, Shasta Cascade Timberlands. You know, they may want to collaborate on that as well, because we're going to do that work that butts up against their property. So that's just really exciting. And once the CEQA is done on a large percentage of Dunsmuir, then we're ready to go for other grants. So that work is done, and now we'll be in line for other grants in the future to do the rest of Dunsmuir. And then the next exciting thing is we've been working, and Giselle, this is another collaboration with the Fire Safe Council. We have an opportunity to bring a wonderful organization to Dunsmuir for the summertime. It's called CORE, Community Organized Relief Effort. It's an international relief organization. Blake had a chance to meet some of the two of the main folks, the wonderful couple that are going to start this project off. It's Sam Brigioli and Mary Bizzacco. And Mary, you see Mary, and I think you can see a little bit of Sam there in the window. Hi, Sam and Mary. So they're going to be coming up to Dunsmuir to do a wildfire mitigation and preparedness project. It's a pilot program, and it's in collaboration with the Fire Safe Council. It's going to be approximately June through August, and they're going to target 20 or so, maybe more, homes to do home hardening, create defensible space, and provide education on wildfire safety and go bags and all of that for low-income families that really need the help with their homes. And then also work with us collaboratively to help make Dunsmuir become a more fire-wise community.
Right on.
And I'll let Mary and Sam say a few words if you'd like, for just a real brief.
Thank you, Linda. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I think, Linda, you touched on all the activities we're looking to do, and we're really excited to join your community and work through the summer. It is a pilot program, so we're looking to run through August, and we're also currently hiring, and we're looking to hire 3 people within the Dunsmuir community or surrounding communities. We're looking to hire 2 field site supervisors to help with our fire mitigation activities like the home hardening, defensible spaces, fuel reduction activities, as well as a community outreach coordinator. And I shared those job postings with Linda. I can share them with anyone else as well if you know anyone that might be interested.
Those job postings are also on our Facebook and will soon be on our website. So you can reference that when you're talking to folks to go there to apply for those positions.
Great, thank you so much. Do you have any questions on that?
Just want to thank you all.
Great.
Congratulations.
Go ahead, yes?
Well, when I heard hiring, my ears pricked up.
They're good jobs too. It's $25 an hour.
I would hope that a fair amount of the grant goes to hiring people to do the work. Is there any thought as to where the workforce will come from?
Well, now these are 2 different projects,
No, I
but we'll
understand.
work collaboratively. So are you talking about the large grant?
The 690 acres.
Yeah, the large grant, they use contractors
Okay.
that are experienced with CEQA. And so that's very key people, that specific job set of skills that you have to have.
Okay.
So that could be someone in the region, someone that knows Dunsmuir, but Giselle knows people that do that kind of work. And so there's that. And then in terms of the actual on the ground fuel reduction work, those are crews that contract out to do the work.
If I may input, everything we
Yes.
do has to go out to bid. So we will put the CEQA process, will go out to bid, we'll reach far and wide. We hope we can get local folks to do it, but we will get the best bang for the buck, and hopefully that is within our realm. And the same with fuel reduction contractors, we put that out to bid. And we have a few that we know that do really good job for the right price, and they're local. So we may, it all depends on how the bid process goes, but everything will be fairly put out to bid and fairly evaluated for anyone who wants to participate in that.
Thank you very, very much.
And on the other side of it, on the CORE project, they'll want to develop and train volunteers locally to help with that work. The other thing I wanted to just let you know too that we're working on, that's been most of our focus was wildfire mitigation, because we're really there's so much work that needs to be done in this town. But the other thing that we're concerned about is active shooter awareness and training, and that's something that Brian Shirley's working on right now.
He's an
And-
expert on that.
And he's an expert, he's FEMA trained, that he wants to do some training with the schools, and we want to bring it to the community as well, because there's a program that you can train citizens on Stop the Bleed. In these active shooter events, you can save people's lives by simple tourniquet procedures and stopping the bleed outs, and you can save a lot of lives. So I know it's a gruesome thing to talk about, but in the light of the recent shootings, it's something that we need to be aware about here as well. So that's in the works under our DPAC committee. And we're also going to be doing Railroad Days, and we're going to be doing the Community Resource Center. Mark Thibodeau from the Forest Service is going to be at the Community Resource Center. Our collaborations are starting to pay off, so things are happening here. So I'm really excited to hear about that. And we're still looking for new members. We need 2 members for DPAC.
If I could, finishing up then on the committee report, first of all, I do want to say that I had a chance to meet both Mary and Sam. And if you're not familiar, CORE is an organization started by Sean Penn, so it's well known, and he's been in Haiti. They do these kind of projects where they go around the world and solve problems. The fact that we were selected, Siskiyou County first of all, and then they were looking between Happy Camp and us, and I'm really pleased, and we were blessed that we were the ones that were selected for that private project, and both of them seem very bright and very dedicated, so I'm looking forward to what they can do for our city. Thank you. And then the last thing is I want to talk about the alert systems that we're exploring right now. When we had Zone Haven.
Actually, I have a question.
Oh, go ahead, sure.
For you. I know we applied for a CAL FIRE grant with last year and didn't receive it despite a lot of work going into that. And then the plan was to shift to a very large kind of regional approach to a FEMA grant with McConnell's help. How does the grant we received fit into that story or that process?
Yeah, those are 2 different grants, and the one, we just repackaged the CAL FIRE proposal, which was too big, and we thinned it down, and we gave them what they wanted. They wanted CEQA first, but Giselle was smart to say, no, we also have to do some fuel reduction. We all said that. So we got a small piece of fuel reduction for South Dunsmuir, and we got the CEQA work, and they funded it. The other piece is through McConnell applying on our behalf through Cal OES for a FEMA hazard mitigation grant for wildfire. And that's more of the large property owners, including the timber owners, all the large pieces in Dunsmuir as well as Mount Shasta. So that's a big regional grant, and we have not heard yet what the outcome is on that.
Well, congratulations. Thank you for all the work.
Thank you.
Sorry.
We put the right person in the job when we put you in.
Well, I got it. Let's see, I've got till May of next year, and then you got to find somebody else.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks, Linda.
So back to the alert system. So when we had Zone Haven in here, Zone Haven is a company out of San Francisco. They were bought by Genesis, which is a company out of San Diego. And Genesis provides the systems that go along with the mapping of the zones, et cetera, and they provide the alarm systems that would replace our horns that we have right now. The alarm systems of these modern ones are designed to integrate with Zone Haven, so all of that takes place. There's a lot of capabilities in terms of being able to control what's happening with this alarm system remotely. But the biggest thing is that it's voice. It's voice. It's not just an alarm. It's designed to be heard and clear in a clear fashion for a certain distance. 7,000 feet, I think, is the one we're looking at here. And so you're able to actually communicate with the public by letting them know what's happening. And then there's other things too, but that's the big thing. I'm working with a company right now. They have given me an estimate what the cost is for the system that we would need. Each one of these systems is $150,000. And besides needing one north and south, we may need to have 2 in each location, depending upon and I've sent them a sound plan that was gotten together by Stephen Cutting back when he first looked into this, and he's going to study that. But the bottom line is, we would need either 300,000 or 600,000 to put in the alarm systems. The good news is that Genesis has an on-company person who just handles grants. And so I'm pretty comfortable that with FEMA and various other ways, we should be able to fund this. And that'll be my next step, is looking at the funding options. I've got a call into them, and I'm supposed to get a call back from her tomorrow. But the idea then would be that we would be able to have a system that would be able to communicate to the public verbally what's going on and respond to any of those things. It also obviously is a battery backup, so if the power goes down, that's a big thing we were worried about going into it. So those are some of the things we're looking at, and I'll be bringing it along as I get more information on it. Any questions?
Sweet. Thank you. Is the backup plan to, if we can't get these grants, et cetera, to do a more low-tech version like we were?
I guess we could, yeah.
Well, hopefully that works. Then.
Yeah, hopefully it does.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
You sure?
Three horns, though, I like that. No?
All right, any additional committee reports?
We do have a tentative solid waste committee meeting on Monday.
Sixth.
Yep, the 6th.
What about finance committee?
We have not had a meeting yet scheduled, so.
But
it's-
next Monday, I can happy to report that we should have the draft audit.
What?
So we'll have the draft audit at the next meeting. That's the next,
Not
Which
next
will
Monday,
be-
but
which will be the
Monday after.
13th, I think.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. That'll be
Yeah.
the 6th.
Monday after railroad.
6:13.
Well, I have several people interested in the progress
Yeah, the
of
13th.
community grant allocations. Is there any scheduling on that?
Yeah, we don't have any schedule on it yet.
I mean, a number of these are event sensitive.
Yeah, we haven't had time to do community promotions funding grants. We haven't had time to do the budget cycles. Yep.
All right,
Trying to get on
We
it.
already reported from city manager search. There'll be a lot of that coming up in the next month as well. Let's move into approval for the minutes for the May 19th meeting.
I have a comment to make. Oh, yes. Correction. For the start of the last meeting, Wendy, Matthew came in after the closed session, so Vice Mayor Deutsch called the meeting to order, and then when he got here, I reported out on the status. So it's me and not the mayor at that point is all. That's
Yep.
all.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Minutes are approved. The consent agenda tonight is just the check registry for April 30th through May 27th.
I'll make a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carries. We have no public hearing tonight, and we'll move into old business. Item A, appoint finance committee citizen member.
Yeah, so we had there's one open position for the citizen member of the finance committee. There was one applicant, Ahmet Tassi. He submitted his application and met with council 2 meetings ago, I believe it was now. He indicated that he could not make a Monday schedule. So it was directed to maybe come back and try and work together to see if it could work out or whatever. He was able to report back that that Mondays are available for him now. So that is squared away. The application is in the agenda packet. It was in the prior agenda packet as well. He cannot make the meeting tonight. He emailed me earlier to say that he was unable to make it tonight, but he did speak at the last meeting, 2 meetings ago.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Is there any clarifying questions?
What, does that mean he's appointed?
No.
No, we still
No,
have
that-
to vote
I'm
on
going to do
it.
public comment before we move on to discussion.
We
Oh,
did-
Any
okay.
questions on the
I just-
update? All
Yeah,
right,
the-
I'll open this item to public comment. If anyone would like to make public comment on the appointment to the finance committee, let me do so now. Either come to the podium or raise your hand if you're on Zoom. Seeing none, I will close public comment and we can begin with discussion.
Just,
Councilor North.
yeah, just for clarification, our formal action at 2 meetings ago, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was to table the item until we could discuss the scheduling. Prior to our finance committee meeting to discuss the scheduling for the committee, Ahmet had responded to Blake that he could make the Monday meetings work. So we did not have a finance committee. We did not change the finance schedule. So we didn't see the need to do that if he could make the Monday meetings.
Okay, good.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
I wasn't at that meeting, yeah.
I do want to point out, I'm trying to do this as the best way possible, that the campaign last year was particularly rough, and I know that there's one individual who particularly was slammed really hard by that, and I'm expecting that, knowing him, he'll do the right thing and be okay with it, but I just think it's important to recognize that there's still lingering pain in the community based on the campaign of last year.
Okay, I think that was well put as far as that consideration goes. We do have, of course, one application here who does have extensive education and business experience in finance. And it is, on the other hand, I think it's a good sign that even if he wasn't, say, elected, and I don't agree with things that necessarily happened in the campaign, but that he's willing to still volunteer his time and be committed. And I certainly hope if council does move forward with appointment of Mr. Tassi to the Finance Committee, that everyone can work together for the benefit of the city. We have a very, very large, clear, common goal, which is benefit Dunsmere.
And again, you know, serving as the chair of the committee, we do follow protocols and we do keep an orderly meeting. And I wouldn't necessarily allow finance committee meetings become abusive. I feel like in the past, even in these meetings, people who have been particularly abusive at the podium, you know, I make a point of making a comment that those are not appropriate. So operating within the procedures and policies that we have, I don't feel that this would be a bad addition to the finance committee. Again, I think I brought this up 2 meetings ago, having a business owner on the committee would be lovely to have, just to have that perspective. Len, with his perspective, working with the school boards and budgets has been very helpful. Mario with his history, and I think someone who does have a slightly different financial background, even if it's not governmental finance, would be a nice addition. So I'm happy to support and make a motion to appoint Ahmet Tassi to the Finance Committee.
Second.
One last piece of recommendation, then I would hope that the gentleman, as he moves forward, keeps that in mind and hopes to adjust to that
Man,
situation.
I'm cool.
Okay.
Jesus.
Well,
No, I'm cool.
Well, you're referring to the 2018 campaign?
2020.
2020.
That's when Bruce, Dave.
Well, guys, we're going to
Anyway.
a little off topic here.
Oh.
I would say, at the very least, I certainly hope anyone involved with the Finance Committee to have more accurate ideas about Dunsmuir's finances.
Let's move on. Let's get off that. Let's
So,
call the vote.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries unanimously. Please let Mr. Tassi know he's welcome to the party.
Welcome to the party.
All right. Then we have the great item that's always before us, our future budget, now on a 2-year cycle. We're happy to observe.
Yeah.
Acting city manager, or more importantly, finance director.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, put the finance director hat on right now. Yeah, I kind of just wanted to bring the budget discussion up, point out a few things. I know we didn't have a finance committee meeting prior. It was whatever the heck holiday it was.
You have a lot going on also.
Yeah, there's quite a bit going on. So I just wanted to kind of get, and it's nice to have a full council. We will be diving way more involved in this at the finance committee meetings. And I just want to point out, we do have that 2-year budget, so maybe we're not as constrained as the 7-1 timeline, but I will, of course, take council advice on all of that, and we will move as fast as we can on trying to get a refreshed budget approved prior to 7-1 of 22. So on that, any questions on that just off the bat? Okay, so I just wanted to point out just kind of a few things. I want to, I've been going through the budget worksheet. So I know some of the council members don't love the budget worksheet. I know some of them love the budget worksheet. So I've been going through it. I've been making my notes on them. So I just want to kind of point out a few numbers just real briefly. Property taxes were up this year. Currently we're at 314,000. We were budgeted 305,000. So that's kind of a positive. Sales tax and
When you say budget, is that today or is that for the whole year?
so the budget is the year budget. When I say budgeted amounts,
By the end of the year too, so that's a.
Are you projecting?
oh, sorry,
Or is that
the
current
actual.
year
So
to date?
the actual amount received as of May. I think this report was done in May,
The
right?
calendar year or fiscal year?
Fiscal year.
Fiscal year. So 7/1 to 6/30. So the actuals that I'm going to be using are kind of 7/1 to maybe 5/1,
Great
let's say.
question. So the budget is going to reflect the 12-month period, and then
Yep.
okay,
So when I
not
say,
the-
yeah, so when I say the budgeted amount of 305,000, that's what we budgeted for a 12-month period.
yeah, not the year-to-date budget. You can do that.
Gotcha. Right.
So we're ahead of the game.
Right. So the actual that has come in is at 314 right now, right? So 9-ish thousand above budget at this point.
That's May 1st, you said, or May 30th?
Let's call it May
Probably May
1st.
1st.
Yeah, we'll
That's
call it
what I
May 1st.
For a couple months.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I love this fact that we're trying to dig in these numbers. Exactly. I love it a lot, but I wasn't trying to do that, but I love the questions. So anyway, so sales tax, transactions and use tax are also above budget at the moment. Above the projected budget or the budget year to date. I get the confusion now. We'll just leave the numbers out at this point. I'm just trying to get, I want to stress though, TOT is way above budget. So I did want to make that point. So that's great news. And those are really the top pieces that I just wanted to mention in terms of general fund revenues. The other one that's on the not so great news is our solid waste enterprise is definitely overspending, which is what we projected to do. But we may need to really dive into that enterprise fund because I think we are overspending it at a greater amount than what we had projected. So I just want to point that out. That's kind of what I wanted to get to in terms of budget discussion. If there are specific questions, happy to go through them.
I guess one that comes up right away for me is we made a pretty drastic move under some time constraints to address our sewage fund,
Yeah.
sewer fund shortfall. Is it soon enough to see that we're on track?
I will say that I don't believe the sewer fund is in the black or is in the red. So I think we are out of that portion. We've done some great budgetary measures to stay afloat, if you will. Yeah. I guess in sewer terms, it may not be.
So,
Yeah, but anyway, so it's looking, I haven't done the deep dive, but we are looking okay.
for me, the elephant in the room, I'm very appreciative that income seems to be trending above budget, and we'll probably make some adjustment accordingly into the next 2-year projection. But inflation, how is it hitting the thousands of little expenses we have?
Yeah.
These costs are going out.
Yeah, inflation's a big one. That it does deal with labor negotiations. I do know that there was a 7.8% CPI. So 7.8, and in terms of our enterprise rate studies, PACE would usually use in the more in the range of like a 3 to 4%. So looking at those two particular numbers right there, it's not a great picture. But hence we did build in some reserves. And I did want to touch on that. General fund reserves have been increasing. So that's a positive. One benefit or one reason for that is the COVID money that we did receive. And so we're actually, with the audit, we're having some solid numbers come in. So that's where I can kind of portray get our final reserve numbers that I like to, that we have now placed within the budget based off Finance Committee recommendations.
Are we at all starting to address the looming shortfall in 2026 when the 0.5% sales tax expires?
Excellent question. We have not delved into that at all. So that's an excellent point that we do need to keep in the back of our minds.
Thanks for reminding me about that.
Well, I forget for a couple months and I remember.
Yeah.
Budget season.
It definitely, and I guess I just want to point out that I really stress what Mayor Bryan is talking about is that there's the 0.5% sales tax that I mentioned. It's called the transactions and use tax, and that is set to sunset in 2026, if that's right. So that leads to discussions of what is it that the citizens may want to do. We did go to a ballot measure a year ago or so, and 2 years ago, and citizens did say they did not want it. So we will need to have verbiage going out that we either need to raise revenues or have other things cut to that degree. So it's a very good discussion point that we do need to always keep in the back of our minds, that will pretty soon come to the front of our minds.
Then I have one question. I know we have a number of unfilled positions that have been budgeted. We've created some not. It's great to hear that the general fund is, the reserves are increasing. That's wonderful to hear. Is it increasing even if we were to subtract, say, unpaid wages to people that aren't here? Or is that the primary source at this point of the growth in the reserves?
The primary point of increasing the reserves was the COVID money that came through.
Oh, yeah, aside from that.
Aside from that, it is the unfilled positions that have caused the increase in the reserves, for sure. Because that leads to, right, so it's been stressing, for sure. Yeah, we do need to fill those positions, and we are actively pursuing that now. Wendy has been a great big help, along with our utilities and public works staff.
And then here's some TOT. Have we seen a direct correlation between the new ordinance that we put in place? We're 5 months into it now.
Yeah, I will say those numbers. So we do have brand new budgetary accounts, the good old 4131 and the 4132. So it's 10-000-4131.00 and 10-000-4132.00. Currently to date, we're at about 14,000 in the registration fees and about 9,000, just under 9,000 in the inspection fees. So that is revenues that, helps pay for staff time and everything, but it's, Wendy and Chief Padilla have been instrumental in all of this. Wendy, the main instrument driver.
Well, just to be clear too, anything that we collect that is a fee directly reimburses us for staff time to perform that action.
Right.
So talking about it as revenue it is not technically
correct.
It is correct for the budgetary process, but it is not correct in thinking that it is making us money.
Yeah.
So just to be very cautious about that is not revenue that we can put to some other project that has to go to reimbursement.
A great point, but we do have the 2%.
Excellent point.
TOT. Do you have the numbers on that? TOT?
The 2%?
Yeah.
Or the 10%?
I'm sorry, 10%.
Yeah, okay.
2%.
Yeah, 2% goes to the county for the Tourism Business Improvement District. The 10% TOT portion has its, I was gonna say almost, no, it's like 1.5 times higher right now.
What is it compared to last year?
Oh, probably.
Way higher because people
Yeah.
are traveling again.
There's no COVID.
I think it's really hard to project some of the, actions that we took within the last 2 years. It's hard to look at what their actual impact is comprehensively because of the changes in lifestyle that have significantly changed in the last 2 years. So I think what we're seeing for TOT in the planning sphere and countywide is we're seeing the TOT go up everywhere because people are, vaccinated, they're traveling, they have the disposable income coming again. I'm happy to hear that the TOT is still increasing with the gas prices.
Yeah.
And even travel reports are showing that the gas price increase is really not deterring, summer travel. So there's a kind of a threshold that they go over. But right now, the projections for the summer is that people will not be changing their travel plans regardless of the gas price.
Yeah.
Which is
And so just
While we're on this, I do think it might be helpful for us to schedule an agenda item to get a report back from the people that are doing the inspections and running this to see what's going on in the community and how it's, are we finding that everything's in order or the problems?
That's a great point, but it's on our agenda list. Well, it's on our agenda list to revisit it in January. That's what we said for the year.
Good idea.
But yeah, certainly.
Yeah, the short-term rental stuff. Yeah.
I think we've got lots of information now, and we're all impatient to hear about it, of course. But we'll really see more trend lines emerge, something closer to 6 months of regulation. We'd also love to hear on success at eliminating any unlicensed short-term rentals.
That's kind of what I'm looking at.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, oh, I know, yeah, our staff's done a great job at trying to find the unlicensed operations. And we've gotten quite a few. Well, I don't know about quite a few.
Thank you, Blake.
We've
Thank
done
you,
well.
Wendy.
Mr. Mayor,
Thank you, Chief Dan. Yes.
Two issues. One is, I hope you take a look, the Finance Committee takes a look at the cannabis tax and revenues. This was a long-running fight, as you know, with the suggestion we'd never have a cannabis economy, but we do have several licensees now. And the notion that the budget for 22-23 projects 10,000 in tax revenue, that's ridiculously low. And as you project it into 23-24, it's not going to rise at the rate of inflation. It's going to rise like that. And I would like, I have my 3 minutes of fame in the cheap seats, to advocate that the council allocate part of that increasing revenue pot back to community projects. I think when the residents voted in 2018 to tax and regulate, they hoped that those revenues would be available for the sorts of things that community funds do. The other is, the paper yesterday had a very large article, The Price of Safety, and I wasn't going to involve Deputy Ortiz, but the relevant paragraph, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, this is Siskiyou County, is currently asking for a 24% pay increase for our deputies. This pay increase would raise our sheriff's deputies' salaries to a salary range, which is just below what Glenn County pays their deputies, about the same as Tehama County, and slightly less than what Mendocino County pays their sheriff's deputies. The Sheriff's Deputies Association obviously have done what Juliana recommends, which is they have surveyed every surrounding county. But as we're going to go into closed session and worry about our direct employees, the point of the article is, at these salary levels, you stay in Siskiyou County as a sheriff's deputy for about 3 years. And then you move on to a county where you can actually raise a family and afford being here. So I don't know how you're trending. And I still live with the notion that when I was mayor, we reduced by a full deputy's position the amount we pay for our public safety. But I think you're going to have to, this is a county decision in the first instance, but we're obviously one of the biggest customers.
Yep.
And I would hope that we have our eyes open on their negotiation as we're doing our negotiation. Thank you.
That brings up a good point, then. When do we start looking again at the police budget?
We're in the process of looking at it. Quite frankly, the sheriff's department has been very busy lately and hasn't had a lot of time to get back to us. I anticipate extending it as is, to have enough time to come to a better understanding. Particularly, I think they have a difficult time knowing how to budget with the labor negotiations up in the year as well. But not moving along as the one would hope as far as the schedule goes. It looks like on many fronts we're not going to meet our prior goal of being ready the first day of the fiscal year with our new projections. How long do you think, Blake, it'll take between receiving a full audit, which seems like a good time to, digest all that information before we put our new projections out, before we could update the 2-year budget? Maybe like August 1st, September 1st, especially with the new city manager on board, maybe to help?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And I was really trying to push for 7-1, so I'll still try and push.
Well, and I
but
think
there's lots.
from my perspective as Finance Committee Chair, and going back to the point that Councilmember Arth brought up, I understand the urgency and need to update our 2-year budget, but we do have a 2-year budget. I think the community promotions funding has maybe a shorter timeline that we need to be meeting and discuss. So I was going to request, after we do public comment, that maybe we prioritize that community promotions funding process before we go to that 2-year budget discussion. Just because we have, thankfully, under Councilmember Arth and yourself, gotten to a 2-year process. And so we have a little bit more buffer room. And I think relying on that in this circumstance is, the reason why we did that, to focus on some more timely items.
Well, it's very true that one of the reasons for the two-year budget was the exact conundrum of being without a budget.
Things happen. Things happen and you don't have time and, you know, we're all doing our best. I almost cried today because I was really busy and didn't have enough time and had to answer 9 people at one time. Like, it's okay. It happens.
All right, well, are there any additional questions regarding the budget discussion?
What's the meaning of life?
Oh, what is it, 9 or 27 or
42.
42? That's it. That
Looking
was somewhat
for a
close.
motion to
Is
adjourn.
that fun for you?
Good one.
If we're done with that topic, I think I'm gonna hand it over to.
Motion to adjourn?
No, it's,
Well, do we want
We
to?
have a closed session.
We adjourn to closed session?
You might,
Okay.
first I'm going to hand over leadership of this meeting.
Before we do that, though, can I hold off on something? I think that there's one thing that we want to talk about, and that is whether or not we want to have closed sessions before or after the meetings.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
So I looked in the protocols, it wasn't spelled on the protocols, but I'd like to just throw it out to the group and see what they think. I personally prefer the before, because when we get to the end, my mind is pretty muddled, and I like to take on something like closed session early, but that's my point. I just want to throw it out so we make a decision as a group.
I have one thought on it, that I've noticed when we do it at 5:30, even though it's more convenient from, say, being able to grab a bite to eat, or get back from a job, we tend to get sometimes it goes past the time at the start of the meeting. So it's really nice to be able to start it with a 5-minute break. So I don't know if we could move to maybe 5:15 if we do it beforehand.
well, again, I think the item is not on the agenda and we left it broad in the policy documents because there are circumstances where we need morning, we need evening, just based off of what's going on. So I think we can talk more about this as we go through, because I know it was basically just, you know, put on here because we need to do it. So I think just for the item at hand today, we can discuss at the end of it if we
Yeah.
need another meeting and take that into
We
account.
just throw it onto agenda item so we can talk about it on the agenda then too.
Yeah.
But I'm echoing what Bruce is saying about closed sessions should be before the meeting, so that the people don't have to sit around and wait to come back. And it just makes the meeting longer if we do it the way we're doing it.
Well, in this particular instance, it's a pretty short agenda.
I'm
so
talking
you'll see
about
the
this
rationale.
particular incident, but I'm saying
Yeah,
in
I-
general.
All right, let's stay at the item at hand, which is public comment on the closed session item.
Okay, then you want to adjourn to closed session, and I'll take it from there?
Sure, let's adjourn to closed section.
Or do you want
There you
Do we
go.
need public
I'm gonna leave
comment?
beforehand, but, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to rejoin you guys for future agenda items, but if you have anything, please, email them to me.
Yeah, we'll hold them in your honor. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, you can actually just, yeah, pause it. Just pause.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can't broadcast.
Hey, he'll take care of that when he gets a chance.
is it not clicking?
I'm reporting that we have given staff direction on continuing the negotiations. With that in mind, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.